If your child has a sore, swollen toe, and even putting on a shoe hurts, you may be wondering if it's an ingrown toenail and whether it's time to see a podiatrist. You may also be worried they'll have to miss soccer, dance, or other activities if they need treatment. The good news is that most kids are back to their normal routine in just a few days. In fact, once the ingrown portion of the nail is removed, many children feel dramatic relief almost immediately. In this video, I'll explain the signs and symptoms of an ingrown toenail, what causes them, when it's time to seek treatment, what the procedure is really like, and how to help prevent the problem from coming back. But first, let me introduce myself. I'm Dr. Rion Berg, and I've been helping children and adults with ingrown toenails for more than 45 years. And one thing I've learned is that making kids feel safe is just as important as treating the nail. I've also written a free ebook called How to Avoid Ingrown, Black, and Damaged Toenails. You can download it using the link in the description below. And if you find this video helpful, please subscribe to our channel, give it a thumbs up, and click the notification bell so you'll know whenever we post a new video. An ingrown toenail occurs when the edge of the nail goes into the surrounding skin instead of straight out. In kids, it usually shows up as redness and swelling along the side of the nail, the toe feeling warm, tender to touch. Sometimes there's drainage or a bit of pus if it's gotten infected. And here's something a lot of parents don't expect. Even babies and toddlers can get ingrown toenails. Their nails are still soft, which makes it easier for the edge to dig into the skin. The main thing to watch for is the difference between a toe that's just tender and one that's starting to show real signs of infection, redness that's spreading, warmth, swelling, or drainage. Once bacteria gets trapped under the edge of the nail, the infection usually doesn't clear up on its own. In fact, it often becomes more painful every day and can spread into the surrounding skin. That's why it's important not to wait too long to have it evaluated. If you notice those signs, that's your cue to get it looked at immediately. Parents almost always assume it's something they did wrong with the trimming, and I want to take that worry off the table right now. The biggest factor is usually genetics, the natural shape and curve of your child's nail. Some kids are simply more prone to ingrown toenails than others. Another very common cause is wearing shoes they've outgrown. Kids' feet grow incredibly fast, and when shoes become too short or too narrow, it puts extra pressure on the sides of the toenails. I also see ingrown toenails frequently in active kids who wear cleats, dance shoes, or other snug athletic footwear. A stubbed toe or other injury during sports can trigger one too. Finally, if your child has a collapsing arch, also known as overpronation, this can lead to excessive pressure on the side of the great toenail and cause an ingrown toenail. If this is the case for your child, learn more about how we treat flat feet in kids by clicking on the link above. While you're figuring out next steps, here's what actually helps. Warm water soaks with Epsom salts about 10 to 15 minutes a couple of times a day. An antibacterial ointment and a bandage to protect the area. You're wearing roomier shoes and socks to take pressure off the toe. I know it's tempting to try to dig out the corner at home, but unfortunately that usually pushes the nail in deeper and makes it harder to treat. I call that bathroom surgery. And it's almost always making things worse, especially on a child who's already uncomfortable and squirming. The biggest mistake I see is parents waiting because they're worried treatment will hurt. The truth is, the longer you wait, the more uncomfortable the toe becomes. The earlier we see your child, the easier the treatment usually is for both you and your child. If the toe is staying red, painful, or starting to drain, it's time to come in. Treatment is the part parents worry about most, so let's go through it clearly. First, comfort is the priority. To decrease any pain from the numbing injection, we do a couple of things. We use a TENS unit, which sends a gentle electrical pulse to help minimize pain before and during the procedure. Then we use a numbing cold spray. Finally, I take the time to explain everything to your child in a way they understand, so they know what's happening and stay calm as possible throughout the procedure. A scared, tense child makes everything harder. Slowing down and building trust matters just as much as the technique itself. Parents are often surprised at how well children do. Once the toe is numb, they usually tell me, "That wasn't nearly as bad as I expected." Here's what the actual procedure looks like. If the toe is infected, we start with something called a nail avulsion. We numb the toe, and then we remove the ingrown portion of the tail, just a small amount. It's done right here in the office. It only takes a few minutes and it's well tolerated, even by young patients. For a child, we simply take it slower and use the TENS unit to keep things as comfortable as possible. That first visit relieves pain and clears up the infection, usually in less than a week. Once your child has healed, we do a second procedure called a matricectomy. This treats the underlying root cells just underneath the nail, so that piece doesn't grow back. That prevents the ingrown toenail from returning. If there's no infection to begin with, we can sometimes do both steps in a single visit. Most children walk out of the office on their own and are much more comfortable than when they came in the first place. Often they are back to their normal activities almost right away. Once the procedure is done, we'll walk you through two simple options for caring for your child's toe at home. The first is an Amerigel wound care kit, which we have available right here in the office. It's not something you'll find at a regular pharmacy. It's an advanced ointment, it's antibacterial, and helps the area heal faster. If your child had the permanent procedure, it also helps neutralize the solution used for that. The second option is a prescription route, an antibiotic ointment prescribed along with an Epsom salt soak, which you can pick up at your pharmacy. Either way, we'll send you home with clearer written instructions, and we'll walk you through exactly which option makes the best sense for your child's procedure. Once your child's toe is healed, there are a few simple things you can do to prevent another ingrown toenail. First, trimming the nails straight across rather than rounding the corners that you might do on a fingernail. It may not look quite as neat, but it helps keep the nail from growing back into the skin. Next, make sure your child's shoes fit properly. This is one of the biggest things parents can do to prevent ingrown toenail. Kids' feet grow quickly, and shoes that are too short or too narrow put extra pressure on the sides of the toenails. When you're buying your children's shoes, have your child's feet measured in person when possible. Look for about a thumb's width between the end of the longest toe and the end of the shoe, and if one foot is larger than the other, always fit the larger foot. The shoes should feel comfortable right away. Don't count on breaking in to make it feel better. Finally, if you notice redness, swelling, or tenderness starting to come back, don't wait. The earlier we see your child, the easier the problem is to treat. In conclusion, if your child has an ingrown toenail, please don't wait, and please don't worry. We see this every day, we treat it gently, and most children are seen quickly. If your child has had a painful experience elsewhere, I understand your concern. One of the things we hear most often from parents is how much easier and more comfortable the experience was at our office than they expected. If you found this information helpful, please remember to subscribe to our channel, like the video and share it, and hit the notification bell so you'll know the next time we release a new video.